Hi, Pat. Did I say, morning, Chair. I hope to pop up and down and use the whiteboard, but I don't pop up and down very much anymore, so I'll sit here and enjoy the stool. And we debated whether I should just read the scripture lessons that are on the board and then not have to say anything, but we're going to touch on all of those in a minute. How do you wrap this all up in terms of the times that I've tried to experience with people a growth in our faith, a growth in our understanding of what it means to do and to be and to walk, to do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly. I've done this for decades, and many of the people I thought were walking in the direction that I was walking don't walk that direction, and I began to wonder why. And I've seen some division within the church that I've always called my home Christian. And some years ago, not many, but some years ago, I quit referring to myself as Christian and referred to myself as a Jesusist, as one who follows Jesus. A week ago yesterday in Louisville, the leadership of our denomination that has to do with youth, children at risk, gathered to determine what they might be doing when the Pentecost offering is received, which is the offering we receive annually for youth. That schools and governments and people in authority are treating youth, children, who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and finally talked about the transgender decisions that have been made. And you just read, yesterday or Friday, that the courts in Texas told the governor he could not charge parents who treated their child transgender as the gender identity of choice. They had to have the gender identity of birth, whatever the genitalia said. You can't call the parents who treat that child as female, if that's her choice, and charge that parent with child abuse. And Shania Leonard said this: we have to shift the narrative to something that resembles Jesus. If you listen to what's been going on politically for the last 5, 6, 7 years, the dialogue, the narrative does not resemble Jesus, even though it is being affirmed by people who acknowledge that they are Christian evangelicals, that they belong to the Christian community. So, I am a Jesusist. I'm not sure that just saying that makes a lot of sense to anybody. If I say an answer to the question, who do you follow? I follow Jesus. A logical question then is, if you're a W person, what does that mean? And if you're a W person, you say, and where do you do it? And when do you do it? And why do you do it? I follow Jesus because Jesus told me to follow him. I don't think that's a good enough answer. I follow Jesus because if I follow him, I get to go to heaven. I don't think that's why Jesus came. to take us to a place that we created. I think Jesus came to show us how to live the life we have here. What do? You live this life to the best of your ability to live love wastefully. What is wasteful love? It's love that you give to someone without any expectation that you'll get it back. Apostle Paul said a nice thing about that. When you give love away, you think you're going to give it away, and what happens is you get more back. Be wasteful. Where do you do it? Every place. At the Republican convention in Minnesota, you do it. Not because you want that convention to follow Jesus, that would be nice, but because you, as a person who says you follow Jesus, want to make sure that the narrative that you speak, live, has some identification, some resemblance to the way Jesus lived, the one who said, follow me, and you said, okay, I will. When do you do it? Well, I do it on Sunday. I pray, I tithe, I go to church. But you can't live this holier than thou life out there because they'll eat you up. You could lose your life for Christ's sake and the gospel. Maybe you should. Why do you do this? Because I am not good enough or strong enough or ethical enough to live on my own. I need someone, something, some goal, some person to follow. And because it seemed to my stepmother, that I ought to learn something about Jesus, I chose Jesus to follow before I had any idea what making that choice meant. I am a Jesusist. And today, I want to say to you that when you say you follow Jesus, it is not enough to say that. You have to know why. I believe that Christians have lost, I believe that some of us have lost the edge of what it is that we have because we are followers of Jesus. And there are ways to sharpen, there are ways for you to hone that answer to make it more real for you and more alive for others. I chose the Gospel of John as my way to answer that for you today. I chose the Gospel of John for two reasons. It's a gospel like none of the others. And it's a gospel written last. And it's written by an eclectic group, well, not certainly more eclectic than this group. But it's written by old Jews who always grew up in the synagogue and were faithful and pledged to the building fund and showed up on Saturday to rake and did all of the good things when it was time to serve a potluck and all of those things. And for some reason, when they said Jesus seemed to be the Messiah, they got kicked out of their religion. It would be like the charter members of Valley being told, I'm sorry you didn't keep up with the times, you can't come anymore. How would you feel? The Johannine community is composed of those people. It is composed of people who are brand new to the idea that there is a Messiah and it is Jesus and he does give us a new way to live. And then there are those in the community around this Johannine group who say, boy, we surely like what they do because they help a lot of folk. Read John McCall's last letter. When he's at a 7-Eleven store in a Taiwan city, and he's ordering Coke and French fries or something, I don't know. And the woman said, we don't get many visitors here. What are you doing in town? And he said, oh, I'm here to teach and preach at the Presbyterian Church. And she said, oh, we love that church in this town. And he said, oh, are you a Christian? And she said, no, we love that church. There are people in the Johannine community who are not Christians, but they love being a part of people who care about people who have needs. So I got this hammer and I got this nail and I'm putting this board up on this house because I love the Christian call to Habitat for Humanity. And I turn to the guy with the hammer next to me and I say, and what church do you go to? And he said, the mosque. And on this side, the synagogue. And on this side, the temple. Habitat for Humanity says it's what we do for others that matters. I chose the Johannine community not because these people were trying to become better Jews, not because these people were trying to become better Christians, because there wasn't such a thing as a Christian religion yet. I chose the Johannine community because they said, help us become better human beings. That when we see a human in need, we respond. We don't just take care of ourselves. I also want to deal with a number. I want to deal with the number 7. The Bible is full of biblical numbers. I think 7 may be the first one. Excuse me. The first creation story in the Bible is written by the priests in 500 BCE, and it has 6 days of labor and 1 day of rest. 7, it completes. It is the completion. It wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't the first. Diana, would you get me a glass of water from the kitchen, please? Thank you. It wasn't the first creation story, which was done by the Yahwists in 1000 BCE, but I think it appears in our Bible first, not because of number 7, but because the priests want the Sabbath day to be kept holy, and they want some rules to be followed. They certainly weren't chosen first because male and female were created together and equal. We all know the second story is the one we like, when Adam fell asleep and they made Eve out of a rib of Adam so that women would never forget who's in charge. I see some women in this room who have forgotten. So I'm glad you're here today so that I can remind you. My helper has arrived. Thank you, dear. There has to be a place to set this. So the number 7 becomes big in the Bible. How many times do you forgive? 70 times 7. When do you cancel debts? In the year of Jubilee. When is that? 7 times 7. After 49 years, the 50th day, 50th year is Jubilee. Debts are canceled. 7 Sundays in Lent. 7th one is Easter. Jubilee, debts are canceled. 7 Sundays in Lent. Please don't forget in. Not 7 Sundays of Lent. Sundays don't count in Lent. Sundays are not of Lent. Sundays are in Lent. Lent is about renewal and assessment and personal preparation and prayer. Sunday is about Jubilee. Celebration, grace, thanksgiving. Sundays are days to celebrate. 7. What do I do to follow Jesus? Man, I wish there were 7 things I could do. The Gospel of John. In the Gospel of John, which is a text that is incredibly intelligently written and divided. If you take chapter 2 and go to chapter 20, right in the middle, it changes from signs to passion. Why did I leave off 1 and 21? Because they were added. I believe the gospel starts with the water and wine miracle. But in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That prolegomena is so beautiful. That is important to our faith. And the other things that are in chapter 1 are important to our faith. But I think I don't have any trouble that chapter 21 was added, because the end of chapter 20 says, we could keep writing this, but this is enough. You don't say this is enough if you plan to write more. So this community said, this is enough. They gathered stories. I mean, this is 70 years since Jesus died. They have gathered stories. They put them together. They've said, how can we make this so that people in generations to come will have something to grab onto to help them understand what it means to be with the one who said, I'm going to be with you always. So I chose 7 signs to show you how you say, when someone says, what does it mean when you say, I follow Jesus? 7 signs. Some people call them miracles. Some people say that these are the 7 miracles of Jesus. You know what they are. I'll give you a word for clues. This is a WW, walk on water. No, this is the wine water, sorry. The walk on water comes later. This is Roman's official son. This is, that's this one. This is a blind. This is 5,000. This is walk on water. This is dust and spit. And this is Lazarus. I want to talk about them not as miracles. In the concept of miracle, there are those who believe that a miracle is something that is done because it's supernatural, and that Jesus could do these things because he was really God on earth, and God can do anything. Several years ago, pastor of the Solomon's Porch Church in South Minneapolis, Doug Paget, got me thinking about, because of his thoughts, this from the Gospel of John, 14th chapter, 12th verse. Jesus says, according to the Gospel, very truly I tell you, I will do works that are amazing, but you will do greater works than these. And then he says, if you love me. In the very next chapter, for some of you, the favorite chapter in the Gospel of John, the vine and the branches, I am the vine, you are the branches. You can't do anything apart from me. He says this, No one has greater love than this, to lay down their lives for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you, and I command you to love one another. If you love one another, and you're following what I've commanded you to do, you will do greater things than I will do. Okay? I then say, if I'm to believe the one I follow, if I'm to believe Jesus, then I have to believe I can take water and turn it into wine, or make it drinkable. There was a wedding in Cana of Galilee. Jesus was there, and his mom was there, and some of his disciples were there. Peter, James, Andrew, John. Peter, Andrew, James, and John were not there. It was May 15th. They were on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Peter, Andrew, James, and John were fishermen. You don't go to weddings on opening day. Okay. So, at a wedding in a town like Flint, Michigan, the water can't be drunk. It has to be boiled or distilled or fermented. In a place like Cana, there are, I'm going to do more detail on this one than I will on the others, because at 9:30 Mary's going to raise her hand. There's a synagogue, and there are religious rites, and in those religious rites, Jews have to wash their hands and wash their feet before they enter the holy place. And so there have to be jars of water for cleansing. And in a town like Flint, like Cana, where the water is not drinkable, you have to get it prepared for worship. So at the wedding, there just happened to be ritual jars there for worship. And so when Jesus is asked to get some wine ready, because they're running out, his mom's the one who asks him, and most sons try to do what their mothers ask. And Mary's asking Jesus because she's there because her best friend's son just got married, and this is the reception. And who's responsible that everything goes right at the reception? It says in the book, the son, the groom. But who knows? The groom's mother is responsible. And so the groom's mom comes to Mary and says, can your son do anything about this? Because I know that he goes to the synagogue a lot, and we got all this water, and I don't know what to do. So the water becomes wine, and the wine gets served, and the servant says to the groom, my gosh, you're a great guy. You serve the best wine last. Most people serve the best wine first. And the junk lasts when everybody's drunk and can't tell the difference. And Jesus' disciples say, don't worry about it. I learned something about following Jesus. There are many things to learn from the water and wine parable, sign. But the thing that I'm going to pick out of it, I'm going to pick one thing out of each and say, when you follow Jesus, you work behind the scenes. Jesus never got any credit. And you try to make sure that the one who is supposed to be affirmed gets affirmed. The groom gets praised for having the best wine. Nobody, well, the mother and a few disciples, nobody knows it was Jesus. How many times are you given a chance to do something and you wonder, will it be in the bulletin? Are they going to list who gave to this? Do we get credit? Or do I just do it because it needs to be done. I think of times when I've done it both ways. The times I remember and feel best about are the times when nobody knew I did it. And I just say, thanks for giving me that opportunity. In the second sign, we're almost there. All 7 signs, by the way, are great, so I hope you're going to spend some time in reading them and taking your Bible and taking it seriously. This is the Roman sun. I've been a part of several communities of faith. I served a small church in Maple Ridge, Michigan, where there was a battle between union farmers and non-union farmers. I served a little church in Lowell, Indiana. I served a church in Fairbury, Illinois. I served a church in North St. Paul, Minnesota. I served a church in Bloomington, Minnesota. I served a church in Orlando, Florida. In every one of those churches, there were people who we considered or were considered the pillars of the church. These are the people you can depend on. These are the people who give their all for this church. And I don't know that I could have survived in those churches without them. They were all Presbyterian churches, and you know there's the session that makes the decision, but you know about the invisible sessions, the people you look at when you're going to make a decision and see if they're nodding their head, whether they're on the session or not. You need their support. What's that got to do with this Roman son? He comes to Jesus. He heard Jesus was in town. He has no desire whatsoever to be a part of Jesus. But he heard he can do some things. And so he came to him and he said, you know, I got a son that's very ill, and I want to go home and take care of him, but is there anything you can do? And Jesus says, your son's fine. Don't worry. And before the Roman official can get home, servants come and say, your son is fine. And the Roman official says, oh my God. He was healed because all I said was heal him. And he took his whole family and they followed Jesus. So I could tell you that what you do is ask Jesus for a favor and tell him that if he grants it, you'll give your life to him. Get me through this and I'll be a different person. If you just take this illness away from my parents, I will be with you any way you want me to be with you. There is no quid pro quo in this ministry, my friends. Am I making that noise? Okay. Thank you. There is no quid pro quo. The Romans' family became a part of the fellowship without any knowledge whatsoever to Jesus. He had no interest whatsoever that was going to happen. So the thing that I've tried to remember for me when I say, what does it mean to follow Jesus, is it doesn't matter if this person is a faithful member of Valley or this person is a person who I don't know at all. If they have a need, I should respond. You help the people who are alongside the road. You don't ask questions. I have too many anecdotes I could tell you, but one quickie, I think. I was moderating the church 45 miles away from the church I served in Fairbury, Illinois. And at the benediction in this church in Fairbury, I had to quick jump in the car and run to the other church because they were having an annual meeting and I had to moderate. And when I came back, there were elders at my house. Well, the church owned the house, so there were elders at their house that I lived in. And they said, "Did you set this up for us? Because no sooner had you left town than a family showed up in a car and needed help." And somebody said, "Jim's gone." And we had to figure out what to do. And I said, "Well, did you?" And they said yes, and then they went through the whole thing that they did, and they helped the person, and I said, "And where is that person now?" And they said, "Well, we just filled the car with gas, and they're on their way to wherever they're going." And I said, "So they're not going to be a part of us, right? And why did you help them?" Because they were there. Because they were there. That's when we help. The third sign, which I miswrote on the board, so forgive me. The third sign has a very interesting title. In the scriptures, it says Jesus heals on the Sabbath. If I were the guy who was the supposed star of this story, this sign, I'd be really upset that I didn't make it into the title, because I have been crippled and lying beside this pool for 38 years, and now I get up and walk, and I can't even get listed. Because what was important in the sign to teach us was not that the 38 years of crippledness walked, but that the Sabbath was ignored. You don't heal on the Sabbath. You don't lift people into pools on the Sabbath. The only time the pool heals is when it bubbles. What if it only bubbles on Sunday or Saturday, which is a different Sabbath? Nobody can lift a guy into the pool because it's a Sabbath day. You can't go to work. And Jesus says, "Don't you understand anything? Sabbaths are not made so that we would honor them. Sabbaths are made for you, not you for them." Religion is made to help people, not people made to help religion. What I try to remember about that when I say I follow Jesus is that it doesn't matter where I am or where I'm going. If I'm a Pharisee and I'm on my way to Jerusalem and I've got to lead worship, if I've got a Sadducee, or if and there's somebody on the Jerusalem-Jericho road, I got to stop. It doesn't matter what day it is. Well, maybe I can call ahead and they can still sign my name in the ritual of friendship pad that I was there. There's a man in Orlando. We had a special Sunday school class. I won't spend a whole lot of details, but every year they got a little bar that they put on their pin for attendance. And he had 23. And his wife was a fairly sickly person. And he was really proud of the fact that he had not missed a Sunday class for 23 years. I never said this to him, and I probably should have, but I said, "Oh, how many should you have missed? How many of those should you have been home, caring for someone who needed you?" I try to remember, I keep the Sabbath holy, but I don't keep the Sabbath as something so sacred that I can't follow Jesus. Fourth sign's a biggie, 5,000. It's the only group sign in the Gospel of John, the feeding of the 5,000. All kinds of things are going on in the feeding of the 5,000, as you know. And greater things that I have done you can do. So you don't need to just stop at 5,000. You can feed 17 million Ukrainians at one meal if you're Jose Andres and you're with the World Food Network and you go wherever the crisis is. That's not a better thing than Jesus did. It's a greater thing. Valley goes to prison. Like 1,200 families a week. That's a greater thing, not better. It's greater. But that's not what I take out of this one. This one was really, I really like this one a lot because I am a very needy person. And I'm always looking for other people to help me. So when I'm doing something and someone says, "Can I help?" I always say, "Oh, good, yes." I never say, "Oh, don't worry, I got this." Don't worry, I got this person. My whole life has been, I don't really need any help. Listen, I can do things. Watch me. I can do what I can while I can for as long as I can. And boy, I got a long time and I can do a lot of things. And right now I sit on a stool instead of bouncing around the room. I learned one of the things from this parable, from this sign. If someone offers you, "Can I help you?" say yes. Even if you have to figure out how they can help you, and it's just a minor thing, because you make them feel good when they can help. You feel good when you're helping. But I like the person who offers the help. The one we put on the fringe. The one we say is vulnerable and needs to be taken care of, and someday, they're the future of the synagogue. They're the future of the church. Who's the helper in the 5,000? The kid, the child, the one with the loaves and the fish. He said, "Look what I got." And 5,000 men look at what this little boy is doing, and they take their backpacks and they open up and they take their lunches out, obviously packed by the one woman who helped, and who packs way more than the family needs. And they put it all out there, and by the time everybody gets fed, there's 12 barrels of stuff left over. Because there are 12 tribes, and you have to feed each tribe. But what I learned from this, what does it mean to follow Jesus, is be open to and ready to accept help because you need it. And if you need to remember who's available, just remember a little child shall lead them. Right after that comes the walking on water one. I can't tell you how many jokes have grown up out of the walking for water. Where are the stones and all that stuff? We're in the boat. We're getting ready to push off. Where's Jesus? He's not here yet. Well, we got to go because we have work to do on the other side. And so we leave, and just as we're leaving, here he comes, and he gets in the boat, and he seemed to walk on water to get in here, and we could make a whole lot out of that if we just spend our time trying to figure out how this miracle was done. We're going to miss the truths in the story. And so what do I see in the walking on water? I hear Jesus in the boat saying, "Come on. Follow me, come with me, get in the boat. We're going for a ride. I'm going to show you what's available in ministry. We're going to go around and look at things together. We're going to see Over here are the senior citizens who need assistance, and here are the babies in the crisis nursery, and here are the people standing in the food line. Look at all of these people. See if you can find where you should go to bring your gifts and your skills, and then get out of the boat. Take the plunge. Watch out for the first step, because it'll get you. Sometimes it's a really tough one. Especially if it's on the other side. The scariest moments of my ministry have been when I have gone into population places or, population places where the people there were so dramatically different than I am, that I was not sure what that culture expected, and was I going to be able to provide. And discovered over and over and over and over again, with some threats, that humans are human, and people are people, and you go where the need is. If it's in North Minneapolis, you go there. If it's with a group home for people who are struggling with AIDS, you go there. Wherever the other side is, you go, if that's your gift. I'm not saying everybody does everything, but what does it mean to follow Jesus? It means you go to that other side. You get out of your comfort zone. You expand your boundaries. I can't look over Mandy and not say, Julie Lund helped me expand my boundary here at Valley. Diane and I are ever indebted to Julie for the expansion of our boundary. I came out of North St. Paul, where we had a Northeast Learning Center, and Diane and I were involved in the challenged adult school there, but nobody personalized it for me like Julie. Go to the other side. That's what it means. The sixth sign is the blind man who's been blind since birth. And the people are asking, the Pharisees are asking, is this man blind since birth because of what his parents did? Or did he do something? I don't know how a baby does something to cause punishment. Because the belief was, you understand, that if you sinned, you paid for it. Your infirmity, your disease, your handicap was there because something you did shouldn't have been done. And Jesus says, no. It's not the way it works. There are still people today who believe it. That's not the way it works. When you are blind, there are simple ways to help you see. Maybe we aren't just talking about physical blindness. Maybe I need to quit teaching my children that they need to be careful who their friends are. Maybe I need to watch my prejudices and quit teaching them to my children. Maybe blindness is the bias that we have against certain people. Maybe when Jesus says, love your enemies, we say, you don't know mine. Love your neighbors, have you met the ones over here? When I read this sign, when I feel this sign, when this sign moves within me, I just say, if I can get rid of my biases, if I can quit deciding that being a white male gives me privilege, instead of as a white male I have opportunity to humble myself and do good and walk and love kindness and walk humbly, we can do that with this new narrative of what does it mean to follow Jesus? The last sign, the most, for me, revealing sign, the most liberating sign, the sign that lifted me out of such pits. I think you know I had 3 moms. I think you know my dad died at 61 and he was not a nice man. I think you know my grandma lived with, my paternal grandma lived with us and died with us. Lazarus has made me a better person in the presence of death. How so? I never read this sign anymore without saying these words before I begin reading. Death is a part of life. I do not say death is the end of life. Death is not the end of life. All those people that I just mentioned to you are not dead to me. I got all kinds of memories, and boy, did they come alive. Have they taught me things, and do I remember who taught me them? I'm not an alcoholic because my dad was, and I chose not to be. I don't beat my children because my dad did, and I chose not to. He's still alive for me. He's still teaching me lessons. My dad had a great sense of humor. I'm still working on mine. My dad was a wordsmith. He could talk and talk. He could go beyond 9:30 and not even know it. My dad was a great man for many people, just not for his family. I learned from that. I say, death is not an end. Death is a new beginning. Death is not a going. Death is a staying. And where does it stay? It stays in my heart. It stays in my mind. I mean, every time in Valley when the word stewardship is said, someone says Jim Sutherland. It's still alive. Life still is here. When Lazarus comes out of the tomb in this sign, Jesus says to the people, unwrap him, set him free. That's what you do with your memories. That's what you do. You set that life free inside of you. What difference? I gave memorials to people, a check to this and a gift to that. And the greatest memorial you can do is to remember why that person was important to you and live like it made a difference, that they lived. Lazarus. Who do you follow? I follow Jesus. What does that mean? It means that I try to do things and not take credit for them and hope that somebody else has a good day because of it. I try to help people in need regardless of, without asking questions of who are you and do you deserve this? If you have a need and I'm able to do something, I try to do that. I think that's what Jesus does. Identity is not important, humanity is. I think it's important to say that I like Valley, I like the church, I like coming to be with you. But if there was something that required me to be somewhere else, something that required me to do something else, even something that said you better not be there, I would not. I would not let religion stand in the way of me following Jesus. I think Christianity has done that. I would want to, as best as I could, be down. See, Jesus had his own rules. Jesus said, Deuteronomy 6:5, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, might. Luke 19:18, love your neighbor as yourself. Micah 6:8, do, walk, love. Isaiah 42, I come to bring good news to the poor, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to release the captives, to give recovery of sight to the blind, to say, this is the year of the Lord's favor. This one, the one that I'm living now. And I will do it to the best of my ability now. And I'm not living it now so that I have a better life then. I'm not going to die. I got some people who are going to remember me. I have a friend who can't be here today because he's playing a violin somewhere else, who said to me when I said this to him, that lasts for 2 generations. Unless you tell some stories. How many generations has Jesus lasted? Why? Because we still tell his story. Because he still lives here in us. Because when he said, I will be with you always, he wasn't kidding. As long as you and I remember that our job is to walk his way, talk his talk, and tell his story to the best of my ability. I've done that for as many years as I could. I have chosen to have to do that a different way. And today's my last day to do it this way. So thanks for being here to be a part of it. Let's pray. We open ourselves to life. We are grateful for the gift of it. We are thankful that there is never an end to opportunities to express love for Jesus, love for others, and thanks for life. Be with those facing hardships, be with those facing challenges, be with all those in this life with grace, with mercy, and with the love that will not let them go. And all God's people said, amen. Thanks.